The Spin-off Podcast Network. AI wouldn't be possible without the internet, nor the internet without computers. Computers came from brilliant brains, and even they had to learn that fire was hot and water was wet. The world is constantly shifting, changing, evolving, and Daylight is an award-winning creative and technology studio that helps ambitious clients shift with it. Search daylight.nz to get in touch.
Building a portfolio with Fidelity Basket Portfolios is kind of like making a sandwich. It's as simple as picking your stocks and ETFs, sort of like your meats and other toppings, and managing it as one big, juicy investment. Now that's pretty good. Learn more at fidelity.com/baskets. Investing involves risk, including risk of loss. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Switch to Verizon Business and get more from your internet without paying more for your internet. Get LTE Business Internet starting at $39 a month when paired with a Business Unlimited smartphone plan. That's unlimited data, and with it, unlimited possibilities. Start saving today with Verizon Business, ranked #1 in small business internet customer satisfaction by J.D. Power. Starting price for 25 megabits per second internet plan with savings, plus taxes, fees, and economic adjustment charge. Terms apply. For J.D. Power 2024 award information, visit jdpower.com/awards.
You know, and also it's got to be somewhat enjoyable and a little bit of a challenge for you as well. Like the mental jigsaw of piecing those thoughts together to form a kind of argument. I mean, I don't know about you, but I did real nerdy debating for 5 years at high school.
I just argued with my siblings. It's kind of the same thing.
I mean, you had like a debating team kind of right there.
Talofa lover, I'm Madeline Chapman, editor of The Spin-off. Welcome to Behind the Story, where I go behind the scenes of a big article on the spin-off from the week. If you want a weekly rundown of some of the best reads from the spin-off every Saturday, make sure you sign up to the weekend newsletter. Today I'm talking to senior writer Anna Rawhiti-Connell about the art and curse of opinion writing. This week, everyone and their dog was talking about Destiny Church and Man Up punching their way into an Auckland Pride children's event, terrifying staff and families alike. Anna wrote a column about the Prime Minister's, in her view, weak response to the event and what it said about him politically. I wanted to ask her how she lands on column ideas and what it is that turns a passing thought into 1,000 written words. Here's Anna Rawhiti-Connell on Behind the Story. Kia ora, Anna.
Kia ora, Mad.
We are here to talk about having opinions and sharing them with anyone who wishes to read them.
That's a thing we do here at the Spin-off and a thing I do.
So this week you shared one particular opinion. It was in response to definitely, arguably one of, if not the biggest news story of the week, which was that last weekend, Brian Tamaki's Destiny Church / Man Up supporters, members, quote, protested, stormed.
Yeah, punched their way
into a drag event at the Te Aratū Library and Community Centre.
That's right.
So that is the sort of thing. People were immediately upset, outraged, horrified, all of the above. Lots of opinions shared. Mm-hmm. Most politicians shared a response with an opinion, some very damning. Mm-hmm. And you wrote about the fact that Chris Luxon, the Prime Minister, was basically pretty weak in his response. And you wrote about kind of that it's not very hard to condemn violent action, essentially. Can you sort of talk about the process when you see a story like that unfold, at what point you go from having a thought in your head and maybe saying it out loud to your husband or your dog versus writing it down and presenting it as a fully formed opinion?
Yeah, so I do. That's a good clocking of how these things happen. Generally speaking, my husband knows that something might turn up on the spin-off with my byline if I have ranted at him in a quite impassioned way, usually after I've just opened my phone in the morning to read the news. So there's kind of that. And then I think particularly with anything that is in the realm of politics, I don't just gut check my reaction. I guess do a bit of a test that is around, is this just me as a normal citizen having a reaction to something that's happening in our political and social sphere, or is this part of a larger kind of narrative or sort of swirl of feeling or events that is kind of representative of how other people might be feeling or thinking about something? I think I've always, opinions are like arseholes. Everyone's got them, and now more than ever, you can put them into the world. So I could, if I wanted to, just fart my opinions out on Twitter or something. So when you have a platform like the spin-off, for me the test is always, has this got kind of longer legs in terms of it potentially being representative of how, more than me as an individual feels. And so I think with this one as well, it's also like there's obviously the reaction that people are having on all ends of the spectrum to this particular protest event. And it's fraught, and people are very they respond quite emotionally. I think there would have been an easy thing to write there that would have been fine. I think with this particular instance, there was also the connection into how our leaders responded, and I always love it when there's kind of quite a sort of startling or obvious contrast that pops up. And I think I tend to sometimes have a bit of a stern school mum tone about my opinion writing. And so with this one, where it was like, oh, come on, like Wayne Brown, the Mayor of Auckland, so everybody was very concerned about caveating everything they said with, whilst I respect, people's right to freedom of assembly and freedom of speech, blah, blah, blah. So Wayne Brown said that, but then he also added a, Wayne Brown flourish by calling it thuggery. The CEO of Auckland Council wrote a very long LinkedIn post because his staff were very badly impacted and affected by what happened, and so correct and right for him to come out and say this is not acceptable, in terms of the people that are working in my organisation. The Waitemata acting police superintendent, who, the police often have to be very conservative and careful about what they say, also managed to say it is not okay to turn up in a public environment and intimidate children. Christopher Luxon, our Prime Minister, again with the, respect for rights and things, said it had crossed a line, it was over the top, and then
too far.
Too far was his first response. And I guess what I was really struck by was the contrast amongst a group of, Wayne Brown has copped a lot of flack for in the past from me for not communicating with kind of empathy in situations like that. And I think he's found his speed and kind of knows how to talk authentically, but with some meaning. I wasn't suggesting that our political leaders needed to stand up there and give everyone a massive hug. I just thought that it wasn't a stretch to add a degree of empathy or concern about the people that have been impacted. And I also don't understand why we would be tiptoeing around Destiny Church and Man Up when it was very clear that protest was not at all peaceful, and it was very clear quite quickly. And they are a very, very small group of people. So I just was really unsure as to why the Prime Minister was kind of being so tepid and tentative in his response to something that felt like a gimme in terms of responding in a way that most of New Zealand would have gone, yeah, good, great, yeah, I agree.
Yeah, and I think that approach from you was basically taking something that maybe people, I read an editorial on a large website that can't have taken long to write. It was very short. But the entire bulk of it was, we should condemn the actions of this. And part of me went, I agree. The other part of me went, did you need to say that? Has it already been said by 1,000 people? And I think that is also, when you have your byline on an opinion column, it is kind of tricky because obviously you are not publishing every single one of your opinions. You are choosing which ones to publish.
Yeah.
And often the opinions that you publish aren't even necessarily your strongest held opinions, because maybe those are already understood and people are already talking about them.
Yeah.
And it maybe is not adding much for us to say, this seems bad.
Yeah,
The
I mean,
end.
I think because there was an intersection here between, I think, something that is, kind of, I'm not going to say swelling, but kind of bubbling around the Prime Minister and his ability to connect and communicate with New Zealanders. And then there's this kind of ongoing, quite frankly, exhausting sort of cultural stuff around, trans rights and basically just enormous amounts of misinformation that is being kind of weaponized very deliberately online and now happening in kind of an offline sense with Destiny Church kind of right at the forefront of it. So I always think that when there's kind of an intersection like that, there's always more than one thing to say. But, yes, absolutely condemn it. And in this instance, it was kind of like, I feel like there are plenty of people who are looking for something more from our Prime Minister in a range of different ways, and this is kind of just one example. I think with opinion writing you do sometimes feel like you're pointing out the absolute obvious, but you and I have talked before about, I think we're so in it all the time that sometimes statements of the obvious, well-rounded, thought-out statements of the obvious are doing the job of saying to the person who might be reading it, you are not incorrect in the way that you are thinking. And I've always felt like that about opinion writing, is that the job is, yes, my opinion for sure, but actually what I always hope to do is, because I can write, some say reasonably well, that I can do something that other people can't. And
Who says that? Can you prove
Madeline
it?
has never said it to me. My friends on Messenger.
Okay, I believe you.
Yeah. That's something that I can do, I guess, on behalf of other people, which is summarise something reasonably sharply and kind of go, yes, this is not an incorrect way of thinking, or, this is a way people are thinking and you have the right to vehemently disagree with me.
There's something interesting about opinion writing because it goes through waves. What I have certainly found personally, as someone with runner-up opinions a couple of times, when people agree with your opinion writing is extremely valuable and an important part of journalism. When people disagree, opinion writing is the antithesis of journalism, and in fact, you should never do it, and you should instead be doing something more worthy. I'm interested in how you sell the value of opinion writing, not in a silo, but on a website like The Spin-Off that has all sorts of other writing. Where is its value as a part of the Spin-Off offering?
I think, to me, we, as I guess an online magazine that is sort of focused around, I guess, culture and current affairs, for example, we do aspects that are reporting, But I think for us, the strength, I guess, and the kind of privilege that we have in New Zealand is that people, I think, are looking to us for depth. And we can provide depth in a number of different ways, whether it be, beautiful kind of colour feature writing or our in-depth cover story work, essay writing. And I think opinion on the spin-off, I don't think this about opinion everywhere, but opinion writing on the spin-off, I guess, because we do place a value on the ability of our writers to put words together well. That is one way of providing another aspect of depth. I think you can read about what's happening in the world, we can report on it, and I think opinion, it's always really funny to me anyway about the number of kind of different forms that get smashed into opinion. I mean, I was a columnist for quite a while, and I was never sure whether I should describe myself as a columnist or an opinion writer. Mm-hmm. And then sometimes you see some stuff billed as analysis, which is sort of somewhere in the middle between.
It's for people who are too smart for opinions. They do analysis.
They do analysis. So I think it's really the value of it is this thing has happened, and people who are able to and in a position to put their own thoughts and feelings and opinions out into the world in a way that feels like it might be representative of, a school of thought, right? Whether that is something you agree with or disagree with. If you can do that, I think it's helpful for helping other people kind of understand a little bit more around what's going on and placing it within some context. So it's not just this random one-off thing kind of happened. I think opinion, analysis, column, whatever you want to call it, is the job of it is to provide people with a bit more context, I think. It is, hey, this thing's happening here, but actually this is what it kind of means in a bunch of different sort of ways, or this is how it's kind of about politics, or this is how it's about, human rights. So I guess it's contextual.
Yeah, and I think it's that thing we always say, we're not often, again, if people disagree, they often take it as this person is trying to tell me what to think or trying to tell me that I'm wrong. And if they agree, it's like that's just universal truth. Mm. That's not barely an opinion. That might as well be reported fact. And that I don't think we're ever going to figure that one out.
No.
But I have noticed when I think about opinion that I write, because we all have opinions all the time, most of them don't get written down, the ones that kind of went from being a thought in my head to, I guess I should write this. Sometimes they're not even that I really, really wanted to write it. It's that after talking to people or seeing people posting about something online, and you see a common thread of people going, I feel so strongly about this.
Yeah.
I don't know how to articulate it.
Yeah.
And my lovely, beautiful sister has privately many times throughout my life gone, I got into this argument and I knew how I felt, but I couldn't like point them to the reasons, or they basically out-argued me. And then I think once or twice she's literally said, can you just write something so I can just link them to it? Because I know you know what I'm trying to say, and maybe you can say it better. And I do think that is also, sometimes opinion writing can also be a little bit of a collecting of opinions and going, I think these people are trying to say this.
Yes. Yeah.
And maybe now they can read it and go, oh yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I meant when I said Mike King. I don't like Mike King. Or,
Mike King has a God complex. Yeah, I think that's the thing. And I don't think either of us are sort of suggesting that writers are sitting on some mountain of wisdom, being kind of empaths, just vibing on everybody, or that we're sort of kind of wise wordsmith, sage type people.
Oh, quite the opposite.
So often quite the opposite. But I think that's really right. It is that is the best response for me to something I have written is somebody saying to me, oh God, that's exactly, like what I wanted to say, but I just wouldn't have known how to find the words. And that's lovely ego boost kind of feedback for you. But it is if you have a skill like writing, using it in that kind of way where people can say, oh yeah, I couldn't do that, but it's really great other people can, and great that you've said it, is, that's kind of the crux of it, really.
I'm aware that we're having this very earnest conversation, and the last piece of opinion I wrote was about Cadbury mini eggs being too expensive, which, to be fair, a lot of people are like, I was thinking that, and I'm very mad about it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the comments speak for themselves on that one. Mad, you are with the people on it. And, look, that's classic. I mean, some would say that's kind of classic spin-off. It's just sort of this rubbish opinion about some stupid food or whatever. And I think this is kind of the thing about context again with opinion writing, is it's a great opinion piece in that it's something very universal that a bunch of people are really annoyed about. And also you manage to get the words like shrinkflation.
I'm a business journalist.
Yeah, you're basically writing business opinion. It's not just it's not you going to the shop and finding that the thing that only you and the entire world like is now no longer for sale. This is something that is like part of a bigger conversation about food production, And the thing with opinion writing is you don't have to jam all of that in there. There's a lot that can just be inferred or applied by what you're writing about.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah.
You've sold it. You've sold it well. I guess lastly, a little, oh my God. You can keep this in because I went to try.
Are you looking for the word pivot?
No, I was going to try and say something that is a Latin phrase, a very Toby Manhire phrase, and now I can't even remember what it was.
Oh no, okay. Well.
What is it when you confess?
Is it mea culpa?
Mea culpa.
Mea culpa.
Thank
yeah,
you,
that's
Tia,
incredible teamwork.
Wordsmiths, two wordsmiths at the mic. What I was going to ask you, is there an opinion that you wrote, not that people did not receive well, but that you just went, yeah, I didn't need to write that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think whilst I've waxed lyrical and beautifully about the value of opinion writing and all that kind of stuff, sometimes, and a lot of people say this, when you have a regular column, inevitably you're going to write either something shit and or very likely both, something that you kind of look back on and regret. I mean, I was writing a column during lockdown, and genuinely it was like sweeping like brain dust off the floor and assembling it into something and going, is it's that meme. Is this a column? Stupid thought. I mean, that's how I ended up writing what was an incredibly popular piece, which was the ode to Ashley Bloomfield, right? But I backtracked on that, and I published the backtrack on the spin-off.
You published the mea culpa.
I did publish a mea culpa. I really regret writing an incredibly... I don't think you can ever really punch down when you're writing about politicians, to be clear.
Not really.
But and this is the gut check that I do now, I think sometimes it's just really easy to shoot the fish in the barrel, right? And I remember doing that with Simon Bridges when he sort of made a Facebook post. It was also during COVID lockdown. I mean, let's face it, everybody's brains were real fried. That, yeah. And I kind of wrote this very stern condemnation. And looking back, it's like, oh, for God's sakes. Similar Wayne Brown and his response to the flood, although that genuinely was terrible. And I like to think he's probably maybe learned and evolved, not as a result of the column I wrote at all. But yeah, I think sometimes when I've had a really quick, fast response to something and taken, I guess, the easy way out, which is a thing that happens. I mean, it doesn't, I have the luxury now, I guess, of not being signed up to kind of regular column writing. But when you do, inevitably you can end up writing some quite cringe shit.
Yeah, I do think most people, probably at the spin-off, the things that they regret writing are not the things that piss people off. In fact, for me, often if things piss people off, it's because I have said something that they believed they thought I wouldn't say.
Yeah, there's always that.
Which I never write anything for the sake of getting a reaction. It is genuinely what I think, but often it is like, wait, I thought we agreed on all this stuff. How come I don't agree with you on this? And now I'm quite mad about it. The stuff that I regret is the stuff that people agreed a little bit too much on.
Yeah.
Like, to the point where I went, oh, you're playing to the crowd.
Yeah.
They want Mad to make jokes about Mike Hosking, and now I've done it. Here you go.
I know.
And, they're very successful. Everybody loved them, but empty calories, I think, those ones.
Yeah, very much so. And I was sort of like real high on my own supply when I was doing a combo of writing regular columns and also being on Twitter with a reasonably, good sized follower base. It was just
curse combo.
Terrible. Just real like soul eating stuff there. Because you just get in this loop of like validation, and you end up swimming in a lane and you can't ever get out of it because everybody expects you to be in that lane. So I think I backed off. I think I said to you at one point, I don't want to write opinion anymore. I did it. I hate it. And did the Bulletin for 2 years, which was like
the opposite of
quite
opinion.
the opposite, a real straight up kind of news writing job. And now I'm sort of like, I think because I'm way less in any kind of feedback loop, it's more, is this something that's worth saying on behalf of more people than me? And is it interesting? Is it not just the easy way to do it? And sometimes it might be the easy thing that you're saying or the obvious that you're pointing out, but because you're able to experiment with form a little bit, you can use humour. We're very accepting of multiple different kind of, I guess, ways of setting stuff up at the spin-off, which is great. Like last week was a no good, terrible, horrible, bad week for Luxon. It's just a ranking, but you'd argue, I didn't meet the criteria of opinion. It was literally just a catalogue of things that had happened.
It was news reporting, actually.
Yeah, but it's kind of like, there's a way to do this in a way that's kind of humorous and sharp and witty and, well, she says, the person that wrote it.
Once again, who said that?
I've got screenshots. I'm going to show you my receipts afterwards. So I think for me it's interesting. Is it interesting? Is there some kind of, and also it's got to be somewhat enjoyable and a little bit of a challenge for you as well. Like the mental jigsaw of piecing those thoughts together to form a kind of argument. I don't know about you, but I did real nerdy debating for 5 years at high school.
I just argued with my siblings. It's kind of the same thing.
You had like a debating team kind of right there. And there's something kind of similar in the opinion writing stuff, which is how to form an argument and feel satisfied about it. And then to take the challenge of people disagreeing with you, kind of hold it lightly, not tightly.
And on that note, I will end what I think we went quite overtime, but thank you. We didn't even get to the second half of my questions. Thank you very much, Anna, for being on Behind the Story.
My pleasure, man. Thank you.
That was Anna Rawhiti-Connell on Behind the Story. I'll be back next week with another spin-off writer and another spin-off yarn. Thanks for listening.
The Spin-off Podcast Network.